Welcome, everybody, to Salesforce Field Service Office Hours. My name is Leigh-Anne Nugent, and I am here with small gang, which is great. We're here to talk about optimization, getting started. How do you make it work? What does it mean? How do you turn things on? And what are all the settings? And how do we actually see if it's working the way that we want it to work? So, welcome, everybody. Thank you for hopping on. I will share my screen. This will be a balance of slideware plus the org plus the app. Wait a second. Where is my app? Okay, there's my org. Here's my org. Okay, cool. All right. So starting with optimization. First things first, this is the field service journey and maturity. A lot of customers don't get to optimization until much later in their implementation journey. There's some customers who just do a big bang approach and it's frightening and it's doable, but it's frightening. But so the best thing to do is get visibility, then contain costs, and then you start optimizing. However, usually what we do is we like layering the foundation, knowing that optimization is coming. So if you can do things like book appointment and get candidates, then likely optimization will be easier to turn on when the time comes. When we think about optimization, what's this thing here? Okay, this is a good one. The foundation elements for scheduling and optimization is all reference data driven. So if you don't have the right records created, you won't be able to get the results that you're looking for. So the foundational pieces are territories, resources, and scheduling policies. And once you have those in place, well, you still need the work orders, right? The work orders, the foundation allows you to match the work orders to the territories. When you move into the automate phase, the suggestive scheduling, that's where you press the book appointment or get candidates. It's suggesting what the right slot and resource could be, should be. And then auto scheduling is maybe we just, there's a box on the service appointment where if you tick that box to auto schedule, it will just auto schedule the appointment. There's also on the dispatcher console a bulk schedule. So it will just find the white space and put the appointments on the board. And then we get to optimize. And optimize does this in a way that it calculates the drive time, what's happening before and after, and arranges the appointments in the most optimal way depending on your policies. So, do you want to reduce drive time or do you want to get to the customer faster? Those determine whether or not, like, where those appointments get placed. And yes, scheduling is a journey, meaning to say it's an experiment. It's also, how will I say this? You have to actually try to control your experiments and run it a few times because sometimes you never know what you're going to get. And part of the reason is there are infinite number of possibilities that you could end up with because there's so many different scenarios. I wonder if this deck has that. Okay, here. Um, this is the challenge. When we think about the total number of jobs that we're looking to optimize, how do I know that this break fix shouldn't be before this battery replacement or this field connect shouldn't go over to this muley guy, right? So there's whatever number this is, it's infinity number. There's so many combinations to consider that no one can really calculate it. Even if it's just for one resource and for one day, there's still 720 different combinations for just these appointments. So it's a pretty significant math problem. something very, very roadmap-ish. This is a quantum computing kind of problem that even Salesforce is looking at to improve the computation to speed up what we're calculating. Because not only is it thinking about the arranging, it's also making a call out to calculate the travel for every single appointment. So this is a really big deal. And then it's even taking other considerations like our work rules into consideration. What if I can only do 5 appointments in a day? Or what if I can only carry 150 bins that I have to deliver? Or what if I can only um, work a certain number of work types? 20% of my day has to be only maintenance. So we throw in all of these considerations, and that just makes the optimization challenge even harder. So the number one recommendation that we provide is think big. Think of all the things that you might want to layer in and then put them in the parking lot, right? We'll keep them for later. But the very first thing we have to understand is what is the engine trying to do? And let's just keep optimization as simple as possible. So we can measure the outcomes and then slowly start layering more constraints, adjust the policies or the objectives slowly so that we can just get the thing to work, first of all. One of the things that we always say is, and I don't know, Brad, if you have this in your org or not, a full sandbox is your best friend. And part of the reason is the data. When we create a partial sandbox, you might not get all of the scheduling, the reference data that you need. So you like when you're pulling over all of the territories, the resources, you might not get everything that you need, the records that you need, because it pulls a portion of it, and there's no control over which records that get brought over. So if you can swing a full sandbox, it's highly recommended that you leverage a full sandbox. If you don't, and you're in like you're in true experimentation mode, then just start in a regular sandbox. Don't even bother, I guess. You still need the package and all that stuff, but ultimately you'd have to get a sandbox, install the managed package, basically go through all of this setup just to start experimenting with field service. Now, one cool thing that's happening is, and I don't know if this is available in Sandbox yet, but we've got this concept of Salesforce Go. It's a new setup that Salesforce has started. It's a platform wide initiative because I can't remember exactly how many setup menus there are, but there's a guy who goes to True to the Core, every True to the Core, with every single setup menu on a t-shirt. And he always goes to ask Parker Harris, what like there are two more that you added. And so as a result of that type of, excitement that he brought to the table every single session, they did this initiative. So sometimes it helps to complain consistently. Consistency is key. So the cool thing is now all of these things are available, things being features consolidated in a single case, depending in a single page, depending on what clouds you have access to, licenses to. So you can work with feature sets, you could work with clouds. So, for example, field service called its own setup now. And from here, you can now turn on field service and all of these things, all of these checklist things, I can't scroll. Oh yeah, because that's it. That is it. Everything in green that you would see in this checklist, they're doing it for you in the back end. It takes a little time for everything to get installed and configured and all of that, but it's way better than you doing the clicks so you can go get a coffee and, get ready. There's one thing more that you're going to need to install that is fantastic that's not in this list, and it's because it's part of the app exchange, and it's the data generator. It's called Field Service Data Generator. I'll paste this link in the chat. Oh, for real? Okay, there you are. This was created by Simon Kuntz, who is now part of the field service product team. And then he originally started with Click. So when he was at Click, he was part of the enablement team, and he just learned Salesforce. So he developed this really great tool that you can install in your environment. And I install it in prod because I'm a cowboy and this is a demo environment. So don't recommend that you install this in your production environment. But if you get your hands on a Trailhead, you can install it in your production environment of Trailhead. That way you can get in, more, I guess, experience with it. But you should be able to install this in your sandbox.
Yeah. What one blip on that tool, it's really useful. It's great. But the bulk, you say, let's create 20 appointments and they're within a mile of, some address or the center of the service territory or whatever.
Yeah,
It does give them random locations. So that's lat long only. It, where we wanted to try and use it was with a bundling. And so you've got no address data. It's just lat long. So if you've got other automation that tries to do something to those records, it might end up, altering where they say they are because, oh, the address is blank. So it's going to um, geocode or something. But they come in the records that he makes. They have a lat and long according to what's set up there. They don't, magically get the street address of where that is.
correct. So that would be something to consider. So would this be a good tool to test out bundling? No. Well, if you want to bundle based off of location or street address, because a lot of people do, like, if it's, this street group by this, but yeah,
Yeah, it's a great baseline. And could you go and do the hard work? I just made 10 appointments and let me go find them on the map and set the address to whatever it is. And now you've got all your records, but that's a little bit of a hunt if that's what you were after is like full address data on these sample records.
good point. Right. So I'm not going to do random priority. I just have work order priority here. I'm using the standard priority. I'll get into the details later, but again, basic optimization. Let's just start with basic optimization. I am going to only choose one territory for now, but you could randomize it with this. And I'm not using work order line items. I'm not I am randomizing the work type. I think we're going to find out. I have no idea what work types work in this org, but I'm just going to do it here. And I thought I changed this to be within 5 miles because I just want it to be pretty tight. And what you'll see, back to Bruce's point, you'll have some appointments in the water.
Yeah. I guess the other thing, the requisite to this is, does your service territory have an address? Because if that doesn't have a lat long, there's
Oh,
nothing to
good
be
point.
within 5 miles of.
That's a good point. So maybe I should back up because you cannot create a work order. Ah, good point. This is a good segue to this slide. You cannot really create a work order until you have the foundation records created. So what are those foundation records? Where is that one slide that I have for my work order, scheduling policies. It's like, there you are. It's not really this, but it is this. So these are the three pillars of the required data you need for optimization. So, for example, we first need to deeply understand the work. So, what does the work look like? We have to know all the various attributes for whom, where is it, which is address, lat, long, right? When can the job be performed? So this is it's actually the combination of work order and service appointment because the due date is on the service appointment and earliest start is on the service appointment. But the type of work would be at the work order level. We may need other elements like products, or we might want to know what asset we're servicing, what kind of skills are required in order to perform this work. Oh, this is a incomplete thought from Leigh-Anne. So this is the first element. So if you don't have the required data points for this, then we won't be able to match, right? Or we won't be able to even create the work order. So some of the things that you need. Oh, here's my work order slide. We have to decide, looking at the data model, how the work orders are going to be structured. Is it going to be a basic work order to service appointment? Are we going to have a work order to service appointment with work order line items? Work order with work order line items, and each line item it is its own service appointment. And then there's also, we could have a parent work order and with multiple work orders and service appointments. We could have, instead of a parent work order, we could have a custom project. Oh, I'm thumbs up for some reason. Right. Or you could have like so many, you could have a combination of a custom object with parent work orders. There's so many different ways of modeling this work. And one of the things that I like to determine is if we are working on assets or not. The assets are typically tracked at the work order line item level. Some people like to track the work order line item level to be the work types. So there's a lot of decisions that need to be made with how we're going to structure the work order. Then we have to think about the people. So who are the people? When do they work? So those are the operating hours. What territories do they belong to? Meaning, what is the geographical area that they service? Geographical, I say loosely, but we do think about geographical because time zone is really important. So, what time do the appointments get scheduled? It should be in the context of where the work is being performed, which means your territories need to have operating hours that are in the right time zone. So, we tend to create a territory for every single time zone as a baseline. And then if we need to create smaller territories within it, we can. Or if we need to group them, that's also, we've seen some of that happen too, but and have a parent territory, but territory management is a big piece. And then each one of those resources must have skills, not necessarily must, right? If you're going to use skills on a work order, you must have skills on a service resource. I've seen a lot of projects exclude skills to start because again, that's another layer of data that needs to be managed and then another layer of matching that we need to consider. Bruce is
Yeah,
dropping a yeah, go ahead, Brad.
I was just gonna say, in our case, in this whole call isn't about me, but I appreciate that. We have the foundation in place. We've been live for 4 years, but now we're realizing we don't have things like what you just said on the workforce. We don't have the shifts in there. We don't have the skills, and so we really need to have that foundational information in there for the service territory to be able to move to a true optimization. Right?
Correct. Yep,
Okay.
that's exactly right. Now, so here's how it works. So once we have those foundational pieces in place, the data points, here's how scheduling works. we have 100 employees. And okay, sorry, the last piece, sorry, before I go there, just erase. We have scheduling policies, and this is what helps us match work rules, help us match the work to the workforce. So if this work order requires an installation skill, let's keep it easy. And then I've got an installer, Bruce, he does installs, then Bruce can do this installation work. But if Mark is a maintenance guy, he won't be matched to do the installation. Bruce doesn't do maintenance. Mark does. My maintenance plan work comes in. Mark gets assigned the work because he's got the skill and Bruce doesn't. So work rules are a hard yes, no. And then service objectives are, it's a sliding scale. So I would prefer to send someone as soon as possible. So I would rather send a truck roll. Let's just say I've got Mark waiting. He doesn't have any work scheduled for the day. Bruce is already out doing a job. If we prioritize ASAP, I would roll Mark's truck and say, hey, Mark, go serve this customer ASAP. You're available right now. You're going to go. Or if we said, I'd rather not have ASAP and we want to minimize travel, I would wait for Bruce to be done his job and then he would do the next job again, if he's qualified to do the work, right? So those are all of the considerations that we have on a sliding scale: hard yes, no, and then prioritize. So that's how this comes into play. We filter and reduce the hundreds of employees based off of the yes no qualifiers, who can do the job and when it can be done. So I am not, if a job needs to be done this week, it I won't be able to schedule it next week. So Brad, as you look at your service appointments, looking at the earliest start and the due date, if the due date happened in the past and it still isn't complete, it will never come up for optimization. That's a big gotcha for a lot of customers because they think, well, it should be picked up because I should have done it last week. No, it falls out of the filters. So because of that, you'd have to update data.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, because that's exactly where we are as a company. We're trying to catch up with a service territory that has fallen behind with their preventive maintenance. So we have lots of service appointments where the due date is in the past. So
Correct. Yep.
okay.
So either you cancel those and recreate them. That way you have a kind of a tracker of how many times you've attempted to schedule it, or I don't know what. Again, is this going to be a business policy thing? Or you just kick out the due date, right? You just do a data migration and you add another 30, 45 days, and you have some sort of indicator, original due date or something like that. And then that way you know that you're X number of days late from when you were supposed to perform that maintenance.
Yeah, the sort of leading indicator that could help with something like that is there's that sort of free date field they give you on the SA, right? With the Gantt display date.
Mhm.
If you implement an automation that updates that every day for everything that, never made it to scheduled or dispatched, and you update it to be like today or whatever, they'll keep showing up in your Gantt list views, whatever day you're looking at. And you can say, oh, because for you, all those dates are in the past now, right? So they stop showing up too. They stop showing up on the Gantt. The Gantt's not going to help you get at them. If you update the Gantt display date to be today and do that for the relevant records that haven't been touched, you'll keep seeing them and go, well, why hasn't someone touched this? Why hasn't someone touched that? And either manually adjust the due date, as Leigh-Anne saying, or spawn some new record so you do go give attention to that work.
So Bruce, do you have a trigger, or do you have a scheduled trigger flow that runs to update those
You
records?
can.
So
Yeah,
that
you can do like a
Gantt display date's always today for those ones that didn't get processed in the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah, it's sort of an easy way to keep them in focus so you're constantly looking at them on the Gantt, because what you're usually looking at is stuff that has a earliest start, due date, scheduled start, scheduled end, all that stuff that falls within what's on the Gantt. That's an extra date field they give you, and they don't really put a purpose on it. They're just like, make this be anything. If you want all of, I don't know, next year's work to show up as January 1st, set it to that. But if you want to keep dragging the old stuff into view, you can update all the records that haven't been touched to have, I guess tomorrow, basically. So when people come in and look at the Gantt, oh, here's these on this list view. They haven't been touched yet. Let's get to them. The due dates in the past. Let's do something about it.
Thank you. That sounds like a key tip. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that's definitely a key tip. That's like, these are all the things that we bumped up against for sure. So one of the things that doesn't exist is a why not, meaning why didn't these get scheduled? So let me just, while we are here, I might as well just run my dispatcher console and run an optimization job. Okay, well, while this loads, I'll finish this up. So, right, we start with the hundreds of employees. We've got these yes, no qualifiers. In your scheduling policy, out of the box, you get free data, which is these scheduling policies. So customer first is typically the one that's being used the most. It is a recommendation to not delete these. You keep them there and you use them as a reference, and you can create a new one. And really all a scheduling policy record is a junction object, and it's linking these records. So these work rules, it's linking this work rule to this policy. Definitely do not delete any work rules or objectives. You can remove or delete whatever is linked to customer first. So for example, if I don't need to match territory, I would prefer something called working territory. You can absolutely delete the junction object, the scheduling policy work rule. You can delete this record. But if you went to the work rule tab, okay, you can see all of the rules that come out of the box, and we did create some custom ones here. Don't delete these. These are really good to have as a reference point. Part of it is because they've got all these record types, so you could clone them and rename them and use something if there's something that you might want to modify. So I would never delete it, just in case. If you do delete it, it's not the end of the world. You could just message somebody and say, what does the default work rule look like? And I'll totally send you a screeny. Like, it's not that big of a deal, but try not to do it. So while this is running, are you loaded yet, dispatcher console? Yes. Okay. So what Bruce was saying about the horizon and the dispatcher console, this Gantt display date, whatever is here, this is usually 14 days before and after this date, taking into consideration all of these date fields. So if, for example, your due date is last month, it for sure will fall out of this horizon. And there's no way that you're going to be like, okay, well, what date should I click on so that I can see the stuff that was due last month? I mean, yeah, I guess you could say like, show me everything from May 1st, but it's a bit annoying to see that, right? So right here I am looking at all the stuff that I was supposed to do in the past. If I just tried to schedule these, for example, like let's just schedule it due on 4/18, nothing's going to happen. It won't schedule it. So when you optimize, then nothing's going to happens at scale. So you have no idea if anything happened, no idea why it didn't happen, but you know, this is the message. So there aren't any service resources that match the requirements. Well, what exactly? So one thing that's pretty cool that Salesforce is working on is they are working on that visibility. You will start seeing some components. Oh, now I don't even have it. We're going to say that for another day. There is a Lightning web component that they've added to the page layout where you can attempt to schedule it and it'll tell you exactly what the work rule is. Because the way to tell is to just drag it and drop it and find out why it didn't schedule. And then this is kind of the precursor to understanding, well, why did optimization fail? You would take one of the service appointments to see what work rule failed and prevented it from being scheduled. So this will do its dance and it'll leave it there, but it will present a rule violation if I right click and check rules. I've got that setting turned on to delay it. Go ahead, Bruce. Yeah.
Depending on other automation, it might not stick there. So yeah, that may be one of those, like, do your deep experiments, be in an org where you've maybe turned off other automations. So you want to fail, you want to learn from this failure, but other things might be sticking in its craw that keep it from landing and staying on the GAN.
Yeah. And this also might happen to you. So I tend to just zoom out by one and then I'll be able to see the whole thing. So the time rule, the service appointment must be scheduled according to its time and date properties. Really what that boils down to, let me just go back and zoom back in. That's really one of these start dates. So scheduled start, this is arrival window. It's not this one. Earliest start or due date, it's this one. It doesn't actually call it out. So through experimentation and trial and error, which data point is causing this error? This is kind of how you find it. You just click around and find out.
So you've got old data there too. So that makes sense. It was due in the past. The other thing is, if you're using any automated scheduling on the platform, it's going to try and be realistic. That red line, right? That's right now in your time zone. You can't use automated scheduling to make last week look like it looked like in reality. Like if you've got production is on some other system and you're in a sandbox and you're trying to make last week look like it looked, you cannot use an automated scheduling tactic in Salesforce Field Service to say, make this on last Monday where it landed or with who it landed via some automated process. That's all going to be, I guess, data loading or drag drop, because it's looking at that red line as a hard limit. What I try to do for you via automation must be achievable. Therefore, it's got to be in the future. It won't schedule to the past, no matter how hard you try.
The other thing that, we've had come up was, oh, I scheduled it, but it didn't get done, like here, for example. So I basically need to unschedule everything and then reschedule everything. So that's something that you're going to see, because now you're optimizing and you're filling your board. And to Bruce's point, it's possible that you overscheduled for the day. And so you'd have to find all the appointments and unschedule them and reschedule them. It's it adds volume to the dispatchers. And so when you're rolling this out, definitely play in the environment yourself, become somewhat of an expert, because when you work with dispatchers who are used to maybe scheduling a certain way, like they're used to dragging and dropping, or they're used to auto scheduling, or whatever the current process is. See ya, Vikram. That's going to be the challenge that they're going to have, is they're going to ask, like, why did it put it there? I would have never put it there. And it'd be better to sit side by side with them to help them understand how the tool works. So you'll become an expert by explaining it to other people who need to use the system.
Right. And this is John. I'd like to have a friendly amendment to that. also understand what they do. I mean, because they might have the double secret super thing in the back of their head that, well, this is what I always do. What clearly you can't do that because I always do it. And it's like, well, you know what? Thank you for sharing. We can. And, listen to what they do as well.
That's true. All right. So I have 12 appointments that fall within this horizon, my Gantt dates horizon. I'm going to so the first thing to check is that you have access to press this optimize button in your bulk actions. If you do not, that is in setup. Do I have setup here? No, I have to go to setup here.
Yep, I do have that.
You do have that? Sweet. Okay. So that's in custom settings. I'm going to just press optimize, select my territory. So one thing that's cool about optimize is whatever you have setting on your dispatcher console, your optimizer will inherit it. So for example, I've got 3 days showing here. I've got customer first as my policy. I'm filtered on San Francisco. So when I press optimize, when I click here, that's the only thing that I see. And then my start date and my end date are my dates. And the policy is already default. So cool if I'm repeating this all the time, but not cool if I run different experiments. So if I want to say, well, what does my intensity look like, right? You have to really think about it. Or if you want to change your territory, or maybe you want to do the whole week, just be mindful about that. And then I would hit optimize.
And I think at this point, the way the Gantt is, right, it's visual force. So let's say you had made a brand new policy. And if you sat there trying to expect it to show up, like, I guess the lesson is changes you make elsewhere, you want them to be available to the Gantt, just refresh the screen,
So
right? If you had made a fifth policy and had never used it yet before, if you made it after last loading the Gantt, you probably want to refresh the Gantt.
that's true. So when it's loading, there will be a record created for you. Okay, so when an optimization request is sent, a record gets created. So you'll have to check to see if if you have access to this record, and you'll get it from this envelope. And it's called an optimization request. There is some configuration that you'll have to do on this page layout. I think I have a YouTube on it, all the things that I put on the page layout. But if you go to your page and then do your edit page, you can add components to it. So I'll just show you really quickly here. The component that I added, I don't know why this will always happen to you, so just be mindful. This is Optimization Hub. So when you go to optimization, so I created a tab for it. And this will take a while. This is probably go grab a coffee kind of moment. But you would drag this component onto the page layout. And certain things that we added as well, I think that's it. On the page layout, I just had territory optimization requests. And I think that's it.
Yeah, I think the annoying thing about optimization requests in a list view is they don't reveal to you anywhere what territory they were for. So if you're dealing with one territory, maybe a mild collection of them, if you put some automation to set some custom field on the Opti request itself to show those names, it might make this a little less of like scanning a phone book.
Yeah. So when the record is completed, or when the optimization is completed, you'll get a view like this, which is kind of cool. You can see what was scheduled, how many appointments, what's the travel. And then, yeah, you'd have to dig deeper to see this. But yeah, you can't just view everything, but it takes a little while. So from a little while perspective, if you're using enhanced scheduling and optimization, which I recommend that you do, it they they will run the optimization job for 2 hours, and it'll stop and give you the results that it created within those 2 hours. That's a very different point of view. So as you think, oh, it'll keep trying and trying and trying, it's not really like that. It'll try many, many scenarios within that 2-hour time frame, and then it'll stop. And yeah, and then that'll be it. And this is still going, so it'll take its time. Yeah, go ahead.
So is the extra little grain of salt that you're trying to get across. The ones that take longer, you think, boy, it thought a long time and did a lot of good work for me. But the ones that take a long time and rub right up against that 2-hour mark might have just stopped doing their job because they didn't get to all the records you were trying to deal with. That's I think the lesson learned. The longer it takes doesn't necessarily mean the better result. If it took up to the limit of time it was going to be allowed to take, it might just stop thinking.
And so then does it come back and say, I thought about it a long time and I don't know, I didn't do anything? Or does it say, I thought about it a long time, there were 8 million permutations, this is the best one out of the 3 million permutations I could get to? What does stopped thinking about it mean?
I think it's more like the last thing you said, like, I thought as long as I could, here's the result from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to
So
ask.
it's not how I deal with things when I'm going shopping and there's just too much and I leave.
And how many appointments do you have that you're trying to optimize?
In the test that we have, we created 273. And I was going to
Great.
ask, what is the limit? Because we
Perfect.
never, just going with the plain vanilla implementation that we have, what's FSL right now, we tried to run it optimized just to see what the results would be, and we never had one complete. So that's
Awesome.
yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, that's awesome. 2,500 service appointments is a good number to start with in one optimization request. It's a lot, so that'll take some time. It'll take the full 2 hours kind of thing. Less than that obviously will be faster. These, like, the 2,500 or the 200 would be super fast. So I'm not sure why mine's not fast.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it didn't optimize it.
Yeah, I think the advanced stuff you get into, and if you could, like if Workbench wasn't down, you could maybe peek at the limits. Like, remember the packet it sends out for ESO to optimize, it takes appointments from the day before and the day after the period you're looking at, because it wants to consider there might have been multi-day and wants to know where all those people are and were and might be after the duration you're trying to do. So it might be, if you, let's say you unschedule next Wednesday for some reason, and Tuesday and Thursday were scheduled, and you try and run ESO on Wednesday, the payload's bigger than when you first did Wednesday, or if you did like the following Monday, because it has to know where everyone was booked the day before, the day after, and all their absences and service territory memberships. So the size of the number of records it's thinking about, not necessarily that it's trying to get scheduled for you, is governed by those sort of bookends as well.
So here we go. Perfect example of it not working. I don't know why I can't schedule this, so I'm going to find out with my check rules. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, you can, I mean, one of the other things you can trip over is having too many options. So if you were to say, well, rather than a 20-mile maximum driving distance, let's do only a 10-mile maximum driving distance, that may get rid of a lot of the fluff that it has to sort through, so that there's that it's easier to think about anyway, I think is probably the best way to put it. Or there are less options to consider, and it might just make people happier to not drive as far as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So let me just check my schedule, my check rules here. So I'm not sure what's wrong with this one because this is, oh, yeah, it's well within the time. So I'm not exactly sure
Does it
what
does it
is
have
the
an arrival
matter.
window?
No.
Doing the 10th at midnight. That's where you wait. You dragged it to early June. Is it before the early start?
I don't know. Let's
It's
check.
before.
June 11. Right? June 11. Earliest start is June 10. July 10 is the due date. And the service appointment must be scheduled. So these things will happen.
And you didn't modify the rules of the policy, like
I don't
something
know.
that
I don't
was
think
before
so.
became after.
Let's see. Right. Because I could have flipped it. Ooh, I might have flipped something. Back to what I said before. Don't do. I might have done. I'm that person. Let's check. Before equal not scheduled start. Yeah. So you have to dig in and look at all of these things and see. One of these things is not working. But yours is working, Brad. Like you're able to your first experiment.
Yeah,
Work?
I didn't have a tab on the optimization request object.
Okay.
So with the tab, I did find that the one that we ran the other day did have a failure of authorization issue. So we'll resolve that.
Authorization to
Leigh-Anne, try to relax the rules and see maybe you can spot the rule that throwing this error.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, Mark.
but let's first see when you if there's an authorization, did you turn on enhanced scheduling and optimization? I want to address that first. I'll show you what I mean.
Yeah,
You'll see
please.
it in two places. So field service.
And I guess how old's the org? Like
This was a full sandbox that was refreshed less than 4 months ago, but our org is 2017. FSL has been in our org for 5 years.
Nice. Okay, so in your setup, when you go to field service settings on this right-hand side or this left-hand side, do you see use enhanced scheduling and optimization enabled here?
Getting there right now.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then I would go
I think
to
I enabled that right before we optimized last week. So that
Okay.
I wonder if it takes a while for it to
well, there's one last
try and get
piece.
turned on.
So go into field service settings and check your permission sets under getting started and see if your field service integration permission set has been updated.
All right.
And I think we have to verify something here.
and that step with the perm sets is really an every time the platform and managed package are updated. It's
Right. So
someone's gotta
when Summer
peek
gets
in.
deployed, you're right. When Summer gets deployed, Brad, just go double check that the permissions have been updated in your org.
Well, I know Summer got deployed in our org on the 7th, so 3 days ago.
Oh.
Saw that.
Nice. Okay, so then maybe you'll see if your perms have been updated or not.
Yep, timing is good.
So that permission should be added to an integration user. I don't think there's anything we can do before there actually used to be an optimization user, but with enhanced scheduling and optimization, we're leveraging an integration user. We don't need that anymore. So yeah, that usually is the issue.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can troubleshoot that. I don't want this issue to hold back this conversation.
Oh, that's okay. Well, we're wrapping up soon too. So there's this other piece that we can add layer in is this automation, which means the optimization job can run every single day if you want, or you can choose, actually, this is not the right one. We would do a new job and it would be ESO optimization. So enhanced optimization. We have more features available to us here, whereas we could say the time frame. So you can say, take a look at the appointments. This is saying tomorrow. So if it was today, it would be 0. Today is 0. And it's saying, show me, like, take a look at all of the appointments from today, tomorrow, and the next day. And optimize that horizon only, those 3 days worth. Or you can skip it and you could say, everything that I have up until like 3 days from now, like from today to 3 days from now, those are locked in. Don't bother looking at that schedule. Some people do that because they want to manually make the adjustments for that schedule. They don't want to automatically do it. But some people do. They want to say, if there was a cancellation, I want to optimize my preventative maintenance and insert preventative maintenance into whatever white space I might have. So that's a business decision that you would need to make. But let's go with the first scenario where I'm locked in. I don't want the next 3 days to be touched. I just want to optimize the next 3 to 7 days. You can choose that date range, choose the policy. This is where you would say, for example, if you said only optimize maintenance work, you can create a checkbox field and you can filter the service appointments that have that checkbox as true. That's one way of controlling the scope of appointments that you would optimize. So you can choose that as part of the rules here. And then I don't really do anything here. And then the notification recipient is a user. So if you needed to be updated on that, the progress of it, you could put your email address there. Territory, you would set your territory. Every single group that gets added becomes, right? You can choose to create a new group, or you can say, I want to add this to group 1. And these 2 territories are grouped together. And what you'll see is each group becomes its own optimization request. So this will be important when you start getting into the larger volumes, 2,000 plus per territory, then you'll be able to manage that here. But yeah, again, to keep it simple, this might be the best. And then here's the schedule. So you can do one time, you can do recurring, you could do it every single day, or you could only do it on Mondays because you want to build a schedule for the week and then just leave it at that. So it depends on how you want to run this job. And you can create as many jobs as you want, but you have to be mindful of the number of jobs that you can run in a 24-hour period. There's a limit on that too.
The number of appointments that can be scheduled in that period.
Thank you.
Too, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. It's the number of appointments scheduled in that period.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So another round of detail. So Joyce, crash course. Any other questions or closing remarks? We can continue this thread next week too.
Thank you. I would like to continue this thread next week.
For sure. So if you've got any questions, you can shoot me an email and we can prioritize answering those next week. Otherwise, yeah, we definitely have a lot to uncover for sure.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for hopping on.